All right, welcome everybody. This is another episode of the Whitecloaks kind of data rundown. We've got, as has been tradition the last couple of times we've done this, we've got Alex and Dane, my fellow sort of Whitecloaks on the rewatch, and then we have former rewatch guest as well as our probably foremost Whitecloaks data scientist, Ozzy Moto. Ozzy, you have been awesome with putting together a lot of this data and putting it into a digestible sort of format. So let's start out with you. As always, what are you drinking?
I have a longboard from Kona today.
Nice.
So, it's not teeny tiny Friday today, but that's one of my favorite ads of all time when they talk about TGIF and they think it's Thursday, but it's really Monday. So happy teeny tiny Friday. Today's Saturday. So.
Nice.
All right, Dane, what are you drinking?
I'm on wine again, and I know it's early where I am, but when am I not?
Nice. Alex said that he's doing this sober, so sorry to hear that, bud.
Yeah, we got kickoff in a little bit, so I need to save my 15 beers for that.
Nice.
Fair
Which
Have you ever heard of tailgating?
Where do you think I'm headed? We gotta make this one. I gotta make this one quick and to the point.
All right. Well,
All
since
right.
we're doing some data analysis stuff, and this is probably not going to air until after the games are out anyway, we can establish ourselves as some sort of virtuosos here. Alex, what are your sports bets calls of the day?
My sports bet calls of the day. I mean, I was going to say Georgia over Oregon, but
That's
I feel
cheap.
like we've established that one is was already sort of over by the time we decided to record this. I will always maintain nothing good ever happens to Nebraska, and so they are currently tied 7-7 with North Dakota at halftime. So bad day for the Cornhuskers. And then let's see, what else did I have? Oh yeah, I also had the under on the Iowa game. So yeah, feeling good about that one. And then I'm
Nice.
not going to share what my one loss of the day is looking like. So we're gonna keep it moving.
All right, 3-1. So you guys should listen to what we say at least 3 out of 4 times. All right. I am drinking some Garrison Brothers Texas Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and it is excellent. So if anyone who wants to know, again, they're not endorsing us. I am endorsing them. Standard disclaimer. And let's go ahead and talk some ratings. So Ozzy, first of all, great cover slide here. Loving it.
Yep.
This was range day, right? A little bit of target practice.
That's M1 Grand, so 30-06 rounds, 8 rounds out of a standard M1 Grand clip. And that's my son's spread right there. He kicked my butt.
Nice.
I had a couple of happy darts out in the 7-6 range. So yeah.
All you need is one, though.
Yep.
I just want to
That's
claim, I
true.
think this might be the best that the Wheel of Time show has looked, I think, since
Yep.
I've seen it. What do you
Yeah, and I want to state clearly that that's a show logo, not a book logo. So
Very true. The
Yep.
snake is chasing its tail. It's not
you
eating it.
never desecrate a book logo.
All right. So those who might have caught the last couple episodes, or rather who might have missed them, Ozzy, you want to talk us through the Net Promoter Score system?
Yeah, so Whitecloaks, we come up with we're using the Net Promoter Score to sort of rank TV shows or movies, and I think it's pretty valid. So Net Promoter Score is your promoters minus your detractors. Promoters are defined as people that give you a 9 and a 10, and detractors are 6 and below. So you throw out 7s and 8s. It's a pretty standard measurement of customer satisfaction used in business quite widely to track how you're doing with your customer base. And I think it's very valid for these shows too. So it kind of takes into account the sort of human nature to naturally rank shows higher than a 5, for example, and looks at the 7 and 8. This has been statistically shown. So anyway, that's what NPS is, and that's one of the things we use. We use two other ones that we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Basically,
Yeah, I think it's worth
if you rate
noting-
as a 7 or an 8, you're a pussy. You can't make up your mind, and we don't want to talk to those people. All we got to know is, did you like it or didn't you? Right. So, not that we need to go more bimodal with how a lot of these shows end up getting rated, but Yeah,
Yeah, you
that
can
seems to be the
see
method.
with the data we're about to look, it's very bimodal, and therefore statistically suspect. So
Yeah, but I think the point you're making that people tend to give higher scores makes a lot of sense. People have noted for a long time that none of these shows have anything approaching like a standard distribution in terms of their ratings. They
right,
all tend to have the peak more on the high side. There's pretty much no show that is
yeah,
like a
they look
five
like
average.
this. Yeah, they look like this when they look like this. So
hmm So this net promoter score is a way to try and get around that and
yep,
assess shows for their quality.
yep,
All right, so we started this conversation a while back with a couple other episodes, and we were planning on doing another one, and it just serendipitous or maybe pushed us towards getting this video out is the the suspect nature of some of the scores that have been coming out of Rings of Power. So we pulled several kind of data pulls here, or rather Ozzy did. And again, thanks for doing the work on kind of pulling this data together.
yep. Yeah, it was fun. So you can see that we were kind of nerding out on IMDb rankings on our Discord starting yesterday and into today, and so we pulled 4 sets of data on these time frames, and these are all Pacific daylight time here. So
Okay.
when we pulled them, and you can see that the ranking has been going up on the IMDb ranking, which is basically a weighted average of the scores given.
I think Dane, you had something to kind of add here.
With IMDb rankings,
Yeah.
Yeah.
other than Amazon owns IMDb,
Yeah.
but I recall saying on a previous one of these that what's also interesting but way too esoteric to analyze is kind of a derivative of these IMDb rankings, which are those most helpful reviews. And one thing I noticed, especially the AM on Saturday, so no, that was AM on Friday, because for
So
us, Rings of Power aired Thursday night, right, for us in North America, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
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 Yes. So AM yesterday, Friday, all of the most helpful reviews were very negative. They were 3s, 2s, 1s, 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 2s, a 4, 2s, 2s, 1s. Nothing in the top 20 was praising the show.
Mm-hmm.
Check back that afternoon, and all the most helpful reviews are in the 10s or the 9s. And they don't actually look that helpful. It looks like 100 people out of 700 found it helpful. And then when you're able to click through and click on, well, what are the most helpful who rated it as a 1 or rated it as a 3 or as a 4 or a 5? There's nothing there. And what that tells me is they basically purged all the written reviews for anything 6 or lower. So nothing's there or wasn't there yesterday on that website that actually was a written review that could be sorted by helpfulness. So the only reviews that can be sorted by helpfulness overall are the positive ones.
Yeah.
And
But
they
if you
aren't
look
being
at it,
rated as
the
being
only-
very helpful.
The only
Sometime between
written
this-
reviews that are there are 6 or higher. Amazon has gone through and deleted every single review comment that is
Yeah,
lower than a
but
6.
The
And-
written ones. You can't
Yeah.
even vote on them to be helpful, but there are
Well,
still
you can't
numbers
even-
there.
Yeah, you can't even put in a review comment that is lower than a 6. It won't let you.
Oh, so you're saying that if I had an IMDb account and I just wasn't a lurker and I wanted to write a review now or even give a number, it won't even register?
I think you can still give a number. You can still
Yeah.
push the button. Whether they're counting that is
I think-
currently being discussed, but you cannot leave a comment regarding the show if your overall ranking is less than a 6.
Yeah.
I think they are
That's-
counting them all because you'll see in the raw data that all the numbers are going up. So, but yeah, I think they've wiped between this 6 o'clock poll and the 9 o'clock poll here last night. I think they erased all the commented ones below 6.
And there's been
That's the
other
scope.
channels that have been looking at that and have shown some evidence that there have been comments and scores being deleted. So, which shouldn't surprise us. We saw it with the trailers and all sorts of other stuff. And it goes again. It's worth noting again that that IMDb is owned by Amazon. So,
Yeah.
in terms of the incentive structure, obviously you would think that Amazon's got a $500 million to $1 billion property coming out, and they're going to want to protect the reputation of that for sure.
Yeah.
Even if you don't believe that Amazon has some sort of policy to do that, you got to imagine that individual executives who are tied internally to the company, are tied to rings of power, are going to have they are definitely going to have strong incentives to give calls over to their sort of fellow executives in the IMDb sort of division and make sure that things are shaking out in a way that's going to not jeopardize their jobs, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm in the witness protection program, because I'm sitting about 15 miles from Amazon headquarters, and I'm about 8 miles from Bezos's house. So, yeah, they got drones. So I gotta,
I like it. Hiding right under the enemy's nose.
Exactly. And here I was thinking you guys were all just making fun of me because I wear sunglasses during the streams, which I should point out is because the eye tracking bothers me. If I'm sitting here running a stream and I look to the side to run things or look into the comments, it really annoys the heck out of me. So it is what it is. I
I think it's 'cause
appreciate
you look cool,
the team
Pips.
support.
You're the coolest
That's
gelding in the history of gelding. So, yeah.
Really
All
Gelding
right.
that mounts the
we all just
world.
need to go get the mirrored ones. Just pretend to be Razor Fist.
So this is the NPS for those same 4 data sets.
Mhm.
And I thought I had a bug because it's basically 0. So this shows a lot of variation, but it's 0.4, 0.2, 0.7, 0.2. So it's basically the net promoter score is 0, which means you have as many detractors as you have promoters, basically. So, but it's also not a very good score if you're into what NPS really means. And so here we do see the numbers, and you can see that they all are going up, even the ones. So they're not suppressing the scores starting last night. They're just suppressing those written reviews. So maybe those numbers are getting thrown out. And then you can see here we have a doll who's another white cloak. He came up with, hey, let's drop the 1s and the 10s. And so that's the weighted average of the scores when you throw out all the 1s and all the 10s. And you can see it's still not a very good ranking. And then the next slide, I think, shows the passion index. So the passion index we've talked about before, where these are the percentages of these 4 sets of data, and the passion index is pretty sucky. So, and you can see it's the 2s versus the 1s. But again, this data is a big anomaly. You see the biggest percentages are the 1s and the 10s, and this just shouldn't be distributed that way. So
yeah, I think that's fairly common on a few shows that we've had in the last couple of years, though, right? I mean,
yeah,
I will say that the majority of the shows that end up looking like this seem like they end up underperforming, right? I think
and generate a lot of passion, and they,
Yeah.
good or bad passion, and clearly this one's generated a ton of passion in both directions. So.
So this one looks like sort of our previous data set, right? With some new stuff thrown in.
Yeah, so we have our 2 gates. The best shows were Arcane and Game of Thrones, and then the worst being Batwoman. And then we threw in some other things. First rankings of the House of the Dragon. There you see it's got very positive, kind of the opposite of Rings of Power. So that's got to be chapping Amazon quite a bit. We put Umbrella Academy in there. Pips, you wanted to see how Sandman played out here.
Yep.
Then we've got 3 sets of Wheel of Time data. We got our friend She-Hulk, everybody's favorite lawyer, right there hanging out way near the bottom.
So Wheel of Prime, the 3 sets there are basically up until June, and then up until the end of July, then up until the end of August. So It's been pretty flat, it looks like, in terms of overall. And that's the total score. So the score hasn't budged
Hasn't
in
moved
essentially
off the
3
7-1.
months.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we can see on the next one, I think. So this is the NPS, and we have this thing called Wheel of Prime New, which we took the June baseline that we took, and then the current, and all the latest reviews on Wheel of Prime are trending at a -20 NPS. So you can see Arcane still has the highest NPS. House of the Dragon nipping right at it, though. That was, we'll see if it can stay up there, but people were very happy with House of the Dragon. So
Except
it can be
Dane.
done.
If you're HBO, man, you have to be looking at Rings of Prime right now and just being like, yeah, boys,
Yes.
keep it going. Let's keep driving that up.
What do you guys think of HBO releasing episode 1 of House of the Dragon on YouTube? I thought that was a
Did they?
pretty strong play.
Yeah, it is.
I looked for it. I looked for it. Maybe I
just
couldn't
saw it
find
yesterday.
Everything that HBO is doing right now tells me that they have a ton of confidence in that show, which is very encouraging, because HBO waited for Amazon to announce Rings of Power and then said, we're going a week earlier. Let's go, boys. Let's compare these two shows.
The other thing that gives me hope is they fired that showrunner who was running his mouth about the patriarchy.
That is true.
That's one thing. And then reading through Fire and Blood again, there is potentially a lot of good action coming up when the Dance of Dragons comes up, because it's basically dragon fights.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I wasn't happy with how things were set up. I thought particular lines or whatever, it was cheap. But if it was that one asshat injecting his patriarchy nonsense into the show to do some virtue signaling, hopefully that goes away. And I'm also heartened by the fact that HBO is owned by Warner Brothers, and they've got a new chief exec who's basically full on going, we're not going woke because that's how we go broke. So
yeah, we're here to entertain people and make money.
Yeah.
Right. So
maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
I will say, I think the
HBO's always been good at that, starting with Sopranos, right? They were the first sort of leading edge of this stuff that,
let's throw a caveat on that. HBO has had a rough half decade.
Starting with the end of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah. I will say, Alex, to the point you made about them, jumping a week early on Amazon, it actually is more interesting to that, because if you think about the release schedule, so House of the Dragon is 10 episodes, if I remember right, and then Game of Thrones, Rings of Power is 8. So by the week of the release of Rings of Power, they both dropped 2 episodes, right? Which means that House of the Dragon is actually positioned to have 2 episodes drop after the end of Rings of Power. So they positioned themselves to basically kind of overlap the Rings of Power release on both sides, which is definitely ballsy. Like you said, they got a lot of confidence, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because we're going to be able to track this, because Rings of Power had 25 million views, whereas House of the Dragon only had 10 for its premiere. So Rings of Prime had 2.5 times as much viewership. And I strongly suspect we're going to see a kind of, as one will drop and one will rise, because I know House of the Dragon actually went up in the second week.
It did.
Yeah.
So that's actually interesting, because 25 million was when we were looking at the subscriber bases for the 2 shows. 25 million was actually roughly a parity in terms of number of subscribers viewing on Premiere, right? So Amazon has on the order of 200 million Prime subscribers, versus HBO has on the order of about 75 million. So that 10 million versus 25 million is actually kind of right on the mathematic, like what you'd project for the same amount of interest among subscribers. So we'll have to see how it goes. And I think what'll be key to look at is obviously HBO subscriber numbers. If they get a bump, then that would be a huge indication of it doing exactly what the company wants from a show. And then The other would be, like you said, week over week views.
Yeah. And then, we're going to keep tracking here at Whitecloaks. We're going to pull data every Monday on these 3 shows: House of the Dragon, Wheel of Prime. I'm sorry, not Wheel of Prime, Rings of Prime, and She-Hulk, just to sort of track. Give us some running data, and we'll have the 8/10 week runs, and we'll be able to kind of look at the flow of people's reviews. So.
And we're really just adding She-Hulk now because Batwoman has been canceled, right?
Yeah. He's our new basement dweller. So
got to check and make sure there's a floor on the scale. And I think it's interesting. The opposite of the HBO bold energy has to be Disney Plus seeing. They announced Andor, saw Rings of Prime and House of the Dragon were about to fight, and went, nope, pull that bitch back a couple weeks. We want nothing to do with that.
Yeah, they are. Well, I mean, you saw the trailer for Andor, and they should be afraid. They should be very afraid.
yeah,
I saw She-Hulk twerking, and I honestly thought it was a parody until someone pointed me to the actual clip of it. I'm like, there's no way that this is real. Like,
yeah, my son sent me a text about that. He goes, She-Hulk actually twerking. I'm like, what? No, so.
Oh man, if the state of entertainment in 2022, guys.
Speaking of Andor, here's an aside. So one of my golfing buddies is a banker, so he's not a nerd like a lot of us, and he watched Obi-Wan, just finished watching it, and he said that was god awful. And he usually likes just about everything, and he's like, God, what happened? They made Obi-Wan into such a wuss. And he doesn't read the stuff that we read or keep up on any of this kind of stuff. And that was his take on it. Just so, dude, it's real. People are not happy with that kind of junk.
The normies are turning, and I can actually
he's definitely a normie.
Some of the data that demonstrates that the normies are not down with the new Disney Plus. That'll come up in some of my stuff here later.
Yeah,
nice.
All right, yeah, we're good here on the. You can see the PIs. Passion index, and
yeah, I think the only thing maybe to kind of point out here is that, again, so the stuff that had high net promoter scores that we were looking at, you can tell the difference between ones that seem to get good scores but then seem to have high passion index as well.
Yeah.
So you see Wheel of Prime and some of these shows way down at the bottom, but it seems like the ones that had fairly universally positive reviews, right? So Arcane, Game of Thrones, which we've talked about being propped up by probably the early season reviews, because that's the season as a total, or the show series run as a total. And House of the Dragon has been getting good reviews so far in general. And then it's kind of a long drop before some of the other ones that we're looking at, because we picked a fair amount of kind of bad ones to contextualize with the next stuff, right?
Yeah, in some future episode, we're going to cover some of the worst shows ever made. So, and Rings of Power seems to fall near the bottom end right now for some of the worst shows ever
that's
made.
only because it's doing worse than Manimal.
Yeah,
and I think
right
we
now
said
it's below Manimal. Yeah,
I think we said this raw data. I'll put it up on the screen for just a little bit in case anyone wants to look at kind of how we're getting this stuff.
Yeah,
but not really a whole lot to show other than just to give give kind of open kimono access to the numbers that we're pulling on this stuff, so people can try and recreate the data analysis to prove to themselves, like, hey, we're not just putting bar graphs on something and talking about it. This is the scores that we're getting from the assessments.
Fuck Pips, you say open kimono and all I can think about is Lan wrenching his fucking shirt open and tweaking his nipples. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, probably a lot, but I mean, mostly just alcoholism, but also I keep watching some of these shows that do me harm.
Well, keep the scotch flowing or the bourbon flowing, Pips, and all will be well.
Hey, a glass of bourbon a day keeps the night terrors away.
Yep.
Well said.
All right. So conclusions.
Alex has some.
Alex, what do you got?
mouse that's asleep. Let me hop over.
I'm back.
All right, Dane's back.
Better than ever.
Nice.
2 pounds
Okay.
lighter.
Just like Chuck
All right.
Norris.
All right, so Dane is back with us. Alex, you've got your file to share here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that up, and just walk us through what you got.
Okay, so every week Nielsen, which is sort of the official numbers, posts their top 10 streaming numbers for 1 week, and it's delayed a month, but this is sort of the real actual given numbers. So every week I just kind of go through and I pull the top 10 numbers to sort of demonstrate, kind of see where things are at. So, for the week of 6/27 to 7/3, Stranger Things dominated with almost 6 billion minutes watched. The Umbrella Academy came in second with 2.2. The two Amazon Prime big boy shows, Interminalist and The Boys for that period came in. And that's kind of, as you can see, this is sort of the rest of the week. So the week of 6/27, Netflix had 6 of the top 10, Amazon Prime had 2 of the top 10, and then Hulu had 2 of the top 10. For the next week, I'm sorry, yeah, Hulu had 2 of the top 10.
Good for Hulu. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good for Hulu. Both The Bear is actually a pretty enjoyable show. I would recommend.
Okay.
And then Only Murders in the Building is some kind of sitcom that apparently pulls similar numbers to Wheel of Prime, because Wheel of Prime is an embarrassment. The next week, Stranger Things continued to sort of dominate. That's sort of a pattern for all of July. Was Stranger Things was just basically an unstoppable machine. Disney Plus managed to sneak in to the number 6 spot with Miss Marvel, as the one Disney Plus show in the top 10. And Miss Marvel only finished number 6, both in the second and third weeks of July, both times at number 6. And of the 5 viewing weeks in July, those were the only 2 instances of Disney Plus making it into the top 10 per week. So Disney Plus has a massive problem in that they are just not cracking it when it comes to, content. And something like She-Hulk, I can't imagine is going to help. I have to imagine that, Andor is going to have similar problems getting absolutely buried under, House of the Dragon and Rings of Power.
And Andor is my favorite Star Wars character, so I think it'll do okay.
Yeah, because it's a country, it's a province in Wheel of Time. That's why you like it.
Oh, I was very confused, Dane. There were several.
I thought he was just being sarcastic because Dane hasn't
Yeah.
watched Star Wars since episode episode
Is
6.
Andor, is that General Maydean, who is actually mentioned in a Star Wars movie? Or is this some Mexican character from Narcos?
No, it is as some YouTubers call him Juan Solo. He is the blank wall that is the leading lady's male accompaniment in Rogue One. I do not judge anybody for not remembering anybody's name in that show or that movie, because it was maybe the most boring cast of characters ever assembled. So, but yeah, that's Andor.
He's getting his own show.
Yes, because
it's what I've always wanted.
It's because the sludge must flow. You got the Star Wars name brand hooked up into the Disney machine, and the machine is churning, and it's churning, and the sludge must come out the other side, straight onto your living room couch.
I'm beginning to think this sludge machine is just like the Play-Doh toy that I had when I was little, where you kind of had that like press.
Yep.
And then they put the different shape kind of in front. So what they're doing is basically like Star Wars. Let's slide the little shape in front and let's just press the mashed up brown Play-Doh through.
That is
the brown.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter what they put in the top, so long as it's vaguely Star Wars, the Disney writing and production process will grind it up into a.
It's kind of cool when I had the
dependable
5
3 out
different
of 10.
colors all like separated and whatnot. But I mean, like Play-Doh, it stays out in the air, it dries out, and it gets sucky. And then you mix it all together, it turns brown. I think we're at that stage as far as streaming goes.
Just sort of macerated content.
Yeah,
I mean,
and this is an analogy or a metaphor that maybe the people at Rings of Power could use in order to make an actual good fucking metaphor or analogy. Because when you're saying that your tears of victory or whatever, your wine is sweetest when fermented in the tears of. Sorry, I memory hold exactly what it was there.
Easy.
Save it for the live stream later.
Yeah,
We could
okay.
be using the metaphor. What is the difference between a boat and a rock?
That's going to be used for years from now.
Oh man.
So,
All right.
Buoyancy.
Where were we on the data here?
yeah. So week 3, Resident Evil popped up.
Nice.
That
Wait,
came
what?
in at the number 3 spot.
Yep, just long enough for people to realize it was shit.
Yep. Miss Marvel came in at number 6. Again, this was 6 for Netflix, 2 for Amazon Prime, 1 for Hulu, 1 for Disney Plus.
Oh shit! I watched all of DB Cooper. Where Are You in that week?
Nice.
Yeah, so a lot of
You're
those
the
minutes
one
are
there,
probably
Nick.
me.
Yeah, you're the one. Yeah.
351 million minutes.
It was pretty interesting. Go check it out. I recommend. It was pretty cool.
All right.
Yeah, this was actually a with 2 exceptions. This was a pretty good list. 'Cause Ozark is great. Peaky Blinders is great. Dane is speaking up for DB Cooper. Where Are You?
Good
Marvel
show.
shit.
Good documentary show.
So yeah, the week of July 11th, good week. The 4th week, Virgin River popped in, and
Came out of nowhere.
as we've discussed on the Discord, I think sometimes we forget that there's an entire world of television outside of nerd shit.
Yep.
And every once in a while, something will pop up that like only like your girlfriend and her mom has watched, and those minutes count just as much as our minutes. So I give credit to Netflix for making the content.
Do they though? Do they count?
Some advertisers would say no, that only the male 18 to 29 demographic actually matters. But in the case of streaming, I think
Depends on what you're
count.
advertising.
Yeah, too old.
There you go, Ozzy. That depends on what you're advertising.
Yeah.
But Jesus fucking Christ, I got more disposable income than any other demographic. So
There you go, ladies. Dane says that he's rich and single. If you can get past the
no. I'm telling the
label, he's
advertisers,
good.
make sure they make fucking shows that I like, because this is where the money is, dipshits.
Dane, there's a fascinating conversation to be had about that. But
We're having it one day.
maybe for a different time.
All right.
Stranger Things again came in with 2.2 billion minutes. And I can't emphasize enough how much of a powerhouse Stranger Things was. Like, they dumped this all at once. And even for the first week of August, Stranger Things is the most watched thing in the world. So
Yeah,
Stranger Things
it didn't
was
suck. So
Yeah, it's a good show.
everybody saw the first 3 seasons or first couple seasons, and then finally, like, people are like, hey, this 4th one is actually pretty good. It's not like season 2 or 3. Critical Drinker had an awesome review on it. And so I probably wouldn't even have watched it unless people were saying, no, don't worry, they fixed everything, or it's back to where it was at in season 1. And yeah, it was an entertaining ride.
It was really good.
Yeah. So, see, Umbrella Academy was another one that was kind of an underwhelming show, but that had a really kind of strong performance throughout the month of July. They dumped it all at
I only
once.
watched the first season. I never watched season 2s and 3 because I didn't it didn't do it for me. So
I haven't watched it either. Everybody that I've talked to has said it was dog water, but
I've basically heard the same thing, to be honest. I mean,
I don't even know what it's about, but it's less of a mystery
it's
to me
based
than
on a comic
Virgin
book.
River.
It's based on a comic book.
it seems like it's fairly sort of, I don't know, standard kind of streaming service fantasy fare where it's not particularly good. It's relatively inoffensive. If you're going to throw something on and play on your phone, it seems like it's a good show to have on. So
I'd rather read a book.
Sure.
Fair enough.
That's why you're a White Cloak, Dane.
maybe my favorite item here is at number 9, Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, with 361 million minutes beat out.
What the hell is
Alex,
that?
Alex,
is that an animated children's show based on Jurassic Park?
I thought I saw it because I've got a ton of nephews. But is that Camp Cretaceous as a or Cretaceous? Or is this a typo or a pun? Because Restaceous is pretty.
It does
funny.
say Restaceous.
That is a typo. But
that's a subliminal Alex typo there.
But that could be a fucking great pun for a camp.
Dane always gives me shit for my typos, but again, I should remind people that I have to type with my hooves, so it's a little harder for me.
Well, all I'm going to say is it cracks me up that it had 361 million minutes, and it beat out Miss Marvel, which had 357. So Netflix can literally make animated garbage and beat Disney Plus in a show that Disney Plus is proud of.
When is She-Hulk turning up in this?
Yeah, let's keep going. I want to see some She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, when did She-Hulk, the first episode of She-Hulk came out? I think we're 2 weeks away from the first episode.
It's a trick question because this is only the top 10.
So we're not going to see She-Hulk. I actually, from what I understand, She-Hulk, if I had to guess, is going to fall in the 500 to 600 range.
You think?
That's pretty good for
you think it's going to be,
and then it's going to
be 5-6 spot somewhere in there?
So based on what everybody's saying, it came in basically in line with Hawkeye. So if I go look at Hawkeye, actually, Hawkeye's first week had 853
That is so small.
million.
You're going to have to zoom in on that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hawkeye's first week came in at 853 million minutes watched. And from what Disney is saying, She-Hulk came in about, well, actually, no, because it had a combined episode length of 96 minutes, where She-Hulk had a combined 48. So cut this in half, it's about 425. So if we assume 425 would be basically the 6th or 7th biggest show. So yeah, I don't think She-Hulk is showing back up other than the first week. It might peak back up for the finale. It's sort of like a Miss Marvel hang on, like around 6 with some low 300, but no, She-Hulk is not looking like a winner as of now.
So you don't think the week 3 Megan Thee Stallion sort of twerking, you don't think that's gonna bump it back up with all basically with Dane logging in and watching it 700 times?
All I can think about upon watching that was like that story came out about like how shittily the special effects people at Disney are treated. Like, can you imagine not being able to go home to your family, having to work an 85-hour week because you have to like special effect She-Hulk's ass twerking? Like that would drive me to quit. I don't know about you guys, but that would be the anvil that broke the camel's back.
Good use of technology. Definite good use of technology there.
Yeah, there you go. That's what all the sci-fi writers back 50 years ago, when they envisioned what life would be like in the 2020s and on, they were like, we're gonna have computer generated graphics of extra plus sized women's ass jiggling.
Bouncing the
man.
ratings down, 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 down.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
More to
So
the
that-
point, like, never mind if I had a fucking green lawyer, but if my lawyer was in an office doing that, I don't think I'd hire her again. Like,
New lawyer.
Well, that's because you're
not
a
lawyer.
misogynist bigot incel there, Dane.
I mean, in fairness, having seen her perform in court, I have to imagine that everybody would be absolutely horrified at the thought of having her as a lawyer.
With money,
Yes.
Pips. With
Yes.
money.
But
There you go.
No, somebody spent $100 million to make that television show. God has deserted us.
Alex, you got any more of this for us? I think you were saying that all of this kind of amounts to the normies sort of turning the corner on the sludge getting churned out.
Yeah. So I guess let me bounce back to the to my comparison sheet here. So I believe WandaVision was the first of the Disney Plus shows, right?
Yep.
Or was it
Yep.
Loki?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
It was.
WandaVision put up 5.4 billion minutes viewed total. Loki put up 5.8. You know, these are pretty darn successful shows for Disney Plus, which does not, at least at the time, did not have those numbers. So
Yeah.
Disney Plus's like subscriber numbers has essentially doubled since these two shows have come out.
Yeah.
So then you look at something like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which has fallen from 5.4 billion minutes watched to 4.4 or 4.358 billion minutes watched. So they essentially shed a billion minutes watched between those two shows. Then you look at something like Hawkeye, which, it dropped from 4.35 to 3.99. And then you look at Miss Marvel, which we don't even have complete numbers on because it only made the top 10 its first week, its second to last week, and its last week. So we don't even have. Yeah. So we don't need. I mean, even if we're generous and we put in.
Just assume it averaged right there. Like,
no, you basically take the 1 minute, or sorry, one less than what 10th place would be.
Yeah.
That would be the most generous thing, right? So if it's not in the top 10 and you just assume, it's sorry to make you do some work on a Saturday afterwards, but
live.
If you basically took, but if you took, well, what is the 10th place and it didn't reach that? So what if it was a minute behind for all those weeks and that's why it's not there? Like, it seems to be averaging at like 275.
Which, by the way, these are extraordinarily generous numbers.
Yeah, that's pretty generous.
It's almost we could be.
Yeah,
because they're higher than
the others.
Yeah, because you look at something like Hawkeye, which it has the big bump for the finale, but it falls off significantly in the weeks preceding the premiere. So we are being extraordinarily kind to Miss Marvel, giving them
this. We can't be more generous because otherwise they'd be in the top 10.
Yeah, otherwise they would have made it. So we literally, they would have 1.7 billion minutes watched compared to the next lowest being Hawkeye with 4.
Yeah.
So anybody that's telling you that Miss Marvel is a success can fuck right off. That is a complete and total lie.
Good. All right. You guys heard it here. I mean, you knew it instinctively, but you heard it here first, guys. Anyone who likes Miss Marvel, we got a bridge to sell you.
We proved it with science.
There you go. Trust the science, people. Miss Marvel objectively sucks.
Yep.
Bag of dicks.
Yeah, but I don't know. Then just looking at the weeks of July, Stranger Things is an honest to God truck. Umbrella Academy was, while not as monstrous, was a very solidly performing show that lasted the entire period, so that did well. Virgin River has had a phenomenal top 2 weeks.
Virgin River dropped all eight the same day, so people are going to binge watch that.
Yeah, but even in its third week, it's at 1.3 billion minutes watched. So Virgin River is
Yeah.
up to, uh, if we're including August, is up to 6.3 billion, which is the biggest or the second biggest thing after Stranger Things since we've started watching. So
Yeah.
shout out to the wine moms who are putting Virgin River on the map.
Wait. As an honorary wine mom herself, don't assume my gender, Pips. I have a quick question.
Never.
All right. I have a quick question, and that is, do these tallies distinguish between prior seasons, yes or no? Because I'm assuming if I first heard of Virgin River this year, which I did, and then I find out that there are like 4 previous seasons of this, and I start from the beginning, would I still be getting tallied in these numbers? Or is this
You would.
season 5 only? Okay.
Yep.
So
And
that might be an
have-
explanation as to why these numbers seem a little bit higher, correct?
Yes and
Yeah.
no. That is a reason that it might be a little bit higher. However, I am taking the position here. If you were good enough in seasons 1 through 4, that in season 5, people want to rewatch 1 through 4 to get caught up for 5,
No,
you
no, it's
100% deserve
He's
every
saying
minute
new
of
viewers.
those.
it's
Pick it up
it's
new.
not rewatch. It's basically
Pick it up new.
I've never heard of this show before, but all of my
Yeah.
wine drinking girlfriends around the quilt table are telling me to go watch this. And
I mean,
that's why. And
the same argument could be made for Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, The Boys, right? So like at a certain point, you just have to kind of take the data for what it
Yeah.
is, and individual kind of people can make their own conclusions about it. I think
the
that
only
you're
reason I
probably
bring it
right.
up here, the only reason I bring it up here, Pips, is apparently this is on its 5th season, and I had never
Yeah.
heard of this show before, and I
Totally
don't think
valid.
Alex had either. So that's why I have to
Yeah.
raise it.
Yeah, I
So-
think that's a totally valid point. I think that the only real takeaway that you could say is if you look at the month that we're looking at right now, right? So the terminal list is the only one on the top 5 that has only one season. So
Yes.
so I think that's really the only takeaway that I would kind of tally up here is just to say that
Yeah.
terminal list is actually probably overperforming. We don't know how much it's overperforming by, but it is overperforming the numbers where you can't rewatch previous seasons. You can't catch up on a previous season if you haven't seen it before. So the terminal list is sort of the all natural kind of number there, and the others, it's debatable how much that number is sort of altered by previous seasons existing. But I think your point is still a good one to bring up.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and then
Dana,
What I'm here
I will-
for.
I will confess that I have watched Virgin River. So there you
Is
have
it
it.
good?
Are the
Tell-
wine
tell
moms
us
onto
about
something?
this.
My wife and I enjoy it. You got to find. She doesn't like a lot of these other shows that I like, so we try and find things we both like, and yeah, it's all right. I mean,
Osimoto endorsed
yeah,
Virgin River.
all right.
Osimoto stamp of approval on Virgin River.
It's not a it's not an action show or anything. So, my doctor did tell me I got to blink more or cry more. So you got to watch that to get your tear ducts. Got to get your tear ducts going. So.
Perfect.
One of my last thing I think here is Resident Evil dropped on, I believe it was 7/15.
Mm-hmm.
Resident Evil basically spanned a total of 13 days and then was gone. Like Resident Evil, and even that is giving it too much credit. Resident Evil was basically, people were aware of it for roughly 5 days, and then it's gone. Like it came in third the week of the 11th to the 17th. It came in third the week of the 18th to the 24th, and then it was gone. Nobody watched that show. Like people watched it the first week and then immediately stopped. It is amazing. I have never seen that before.
I can confess that I did see, I think, the first 2 episodes. I sort of fell asleep, like in and out while watching them, and then never logged on to watch another minute of the show. So I can confess I'm right in there with it.
Like it is amazing how terrible like I almost feel like this needs to be studied more thoroughly to truly understand what happened in the numbers here, because I can't even describe it.
I got a quick question. Is Mila Jovovich in any of this?
No.
Because I got my Blu-ray box set of the in reverse screen, and it's Mila and it's Mila and it's Mila all on the cover, and it's the first 3, and these are
Sweet.
great. I think I'm gonna go watch them again.
Yeah, so that is a thing that happened. So so there were
We're gonna
50
do Resident Evil, and we're not gonna have Mila Jovovich, and it's gonna be a hit. And then it's not.
You hear that, guys? Reject Rings of Power, embrace Mila Jovovich, Resident Evil. You heard it here first, folks. But so of the top 50 that popped up this week, and that's just taking the top 10 from each of the first 5 weeks. Netflix had 33 of the spots in the top 50. Amazon Prime had 9, Hulu had 6, and Disney Plus only had 2.
It should be noted Disney owns Hulu, right? So
Yes.
so Disney, as a conglomerate, is actually kind of knocking on Amazon Prime's door. But I think that you should further note that
They're getting beat by their subsidiary.
If you were to do a sort of like a breakdown of where they fell, it seems like Netflix was dominating sort of the upper half of the top 10 list. Amazon was kind of in the middle, and it seems like the Hulu Disney shows were often just sort of holding on to the bottom of the 10. Is that a fair breakdown?
Well, Amazon Prime, I believe, got all 9 of its placements by The Terminalist and The Boys. And Terminalist and The Boys were 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, and then Terminalist came in at 6. So
Yeah.
Terminalist had so those combined had 7.457 billion minutes.
And Disney's top showing was Miss Marvel at a 6th spot twice, and Hulu seems like it was mostly in kind of the 9-10.
Hulu, I believe, got basically all of theirs from Only Murders in the Building.
Okay.
So if we were to combine Disney and Marvel, Disney Plus and Hulu, you basically have.
So it looks like they never actually broke the top 5. Maybe the first week of Only Murder in the Building.
Yeah, I think that came in at 5.
Okay.
So that was a combined 2.9. So it's saying that Disney Plus and Hulu combined are catching up to Amazon Prime. Maybe when we're talking about sort of purely numbers of spots in the top 10, but Amazon Prime still had triple the number of minutes in the top 10.
Yeah, so more than doubled them up, and then Netflix honestly probably more than doubled up Amazon Prime, given that it had 17 million just from that one week of Stranger Things.
Stranger Things had 17 billion minutes, which if you were to combine Disney Plus, Hulu, and Amazon together, and then double it, Stranger Things did more minutes than all of the competition combined. Doubled.
Oh man, that is something else.
Part of it's an artifact that Netflix has more subscribers, of course, but Amazon Prime's got to be close to Netflix because
I was going to say, actually, I think Amazon Prime has more Prime accounts than Netflix does.
Well, there you go.
Netflix
so that's
accounts.
an indictment of Amazon Prime right there. So
Amazon Prime has the fundamental problem that they cannot get people to log into Prime Video, which I
take that back.
think...
So Netflix has 220 million total global viewers, which actually puts it just slightly about 5%, if that, probably about 2.5%. Actually, if my math is right, it's about 2.5% higher than Amazon's, which is just a little above 200 million. So it is a little bit more, but yeah.
Remember when Netflix's stock price was $680?
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
Good times. Yeah. Hey, everybody, please stop investing in companies that have never had a profitable quarter. Stop doing that. it's terrible for the economy. But yeah, so
It
anyway,
leads
yeah,
to bad behavior. Yeah.
Netflix is currently slaughtering everyone, and even when they can't stop doing stupid shit, they're still slaughtering everybody. So, oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the reason that Amazon is so willing to pay for Rings of Power is that they are convinced that Rings of Power is what is going to turn people from Prime shoppers to Prime video watchers. Doesn't sound like it, but
Doesn't sound like it.
good for them.
I
Good for them
guess
trying.
we'll find out. Right? So the thing worth noting is that Nielsen data tracks behind, what is it, 3 weeks, 4 weeks behind?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. So it'll be a couple weeks before we have this. And Alex, so are we going to try and make this this kind of data breakdown? Are we going to try and do this on sort of an ongoing basis? How are we going to try and package this as we go forward?
I'm going to try and do it on a weekly basis.
We'll have a monthly show, and
Sweet.
Yeah.
So I think if you
I
guys,
think October is going to be interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in this, let us know in the comment section, like, subscribe, all that other stuff. But do leave a comment and just say like whether or not you thought that this was kind of a good breakdown of the information, whether or not you guys appreciate the amount of work that was put into this. Specifically, Alex and Azimoto have really been putting in a ton of effort to get this data put together, and honestly coming up with some creative ways to try and process it. I think that the NPS, the passion index, and honestly that doll sort of metric, I think are all really good ways of trying to break through the sort of sludge and kind of
Yep.
sort of, I don't know, messing with the data, whatever it is that these companies are doing. I think the doll one is interesting to me. I think we talked about this before we started, that if you throw out the ones and tens, you're really throwing out 100% of kind of the fake sort of carpet bombing or fluff it sort of scores.
You are. I'm glad you're ending on this tips.
There's some
I
bycatch.
got to end on this. So I've been tracking Wheel of Prime ratings on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I noted that at the end of August, because I do my rolling 100, 63 of the previous 100 ratings on Rotten Tomatoes with a written review had half a star. 63 gave it the lowest possible score that they could give. Yep. This is not review bombing, because that time span was about 3 months, because no one's rating this at all. It's just people kind of trickling in with their review scores. So I wouldn't say, at least in this instance, that giving something half a star necessitates review bombing.
So, and that's not what I was meaning either.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
If people are at the extremes, it tends to all show up right when things come out. And that's why I think it's so great that Ozzy and Alex are tracking this data with timestamps on it, because not a lot of our data sources will provide the actual timestamp information. So you kind of have to be going back over and over. So I'd be interesting to see how these ratings for these shows evolve over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Is one thing. So that much is good. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll try and come up with some good data presentation schemes too as we get data on these shows week to week. So we'll see you in a month. And shout out to Doll, fellow White Cloak Doll.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody got any last kind of parting thoughts here? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and close this out.
Go Cougs.
We might need to have the ongoing debate. Rings of Prime versus Wheel of Prime, which was the most offensive production.
I think we'll have to save that until the Rings of Power, Rings of Prime has finished their series run, because I mean there's still a lot of time. Yeah, there's still a lot of time to desecrate the corpse of Tolkien.
We can see if some of Dane's predictions
are true. They're not desecrating a narrative, and that's my biggest issue.
Yeah, we will hit that when the discussion happens. But for right now, again, this has been the Whitecloaks Drunken Data Scientists, and doing another kind of data breakdown. For guests again, Alex, Dane, thank you guys for the work you've been putting in, and then Azimoto as a guest of the Whitecloaks and an awesome Discord member. Thank you so much for coming here and doing this as well. Appreciate all the hard work you guys have been putting in. And again, like, comment, subscribe, put in the comment section whether or not you like this kind of stuff, and show up in the future for Alex's kind of breakdowns. Those will be hopefully coming out on an ongoing basis. So that's all I got. Everybody, walk in the light.